would like to.
I have a question, Stuart.
Yes.
I always have a question.
Good. Glad to hear.
Following on from the question in the last class, I was wondering about victimhood.
About what?
Victimhood.
Who?
Victimhood. That the
Victimhood. Okay. All right.
Yeah, being how we respond to our environment and the people. When those deeper traumas happen and there's a lot of pain in the system, and there can be a sort of victim identity that is almost a safer place to be than to heal. And I just wondered if you had anything to say about that.
I speak about this a lot, Alicia. I really do. And look, everybody has some sense of being a victim inside themselves. But as long as we don't have the inner strength to transform that and change it, we'll always be prey to the madness that goes on in the world. We'll always be hiding out from the world. We'll always be hiding out in ourselves, and to be a victim, there has to be something really dysfunctional in one, something that really is damaged inside, emotionally, mentally, psychologically. And I always say this, if we develop a system inside, a chakra system, that is strong enough to transform that victimness or victimhood or whatever you want to call it, we don't have to live with that. I don't think anybody is a victim of anything unless they allow themselves to be that victim. And generally, it's people that have not built enough inner strength in themselves to be able to let that, what somebody else says, just bounce off them. I am worthy of having an incredible life. I am worthy of having an extraordinary life. I am worthy of being a happy person. I am worthy of, being a compassionate, forgiving person. And when a person realizes this and is able to build a system inside that's strong enough to do it, they will never be a victim of anything. All of life, instead of being something that taunts us and becomes something that teaches us what we have to do to grow inside ourselves and what we have to do to get stronger. I mean, being a victim just really allows us to tap a deep inner weakness, an anxiety, a neurosis in ourselves that truly doesn't want to reach a place in us that says we are worthy of being happy people. Happy people are never victims, no matter what the world does. And the world does some fairly crazy things. But if you have that deep sense of serenity inside, that connection with God, spirit, His joy in your heart, you're never a victim. No matter what people do, it just represents an opportunity for you to learn and to grow. And I think this is just a very important way to look at life. And it's also an important reason to do deep spiritual practice like we practice here, because we need to build a system inside that is strong enough to keep us from being victims of all the craziness that goes on around us in the world.
Thank you.
And I think, I think any human being can do this. They need training. They need to learn how to do it. And the only reason we remain victims is because we allow ourselves to be victims. And not being a victim doesn't mean we go around revenging ourselves against other people. It means we go around forgiving all the bullshit in the world. And that takes a really strong person who can never be a victim. I mean, I've said it a million times. I mean, one of the greatest things I ever read in my life was in the New Testament. Christ, nailed to a cross, looks out and says, "Forgive them. They know not what they do." It's one of the most extraordinary things I ever read. I mean, to be in that condition and not be a victim. I mean, can you imagine the consciousness in a human being like that? It's extraordinary. And I'm not even Christian. But I deeply appreciate that depth of understanding of life. And we have to forgive people because nobody knows what the hell they're doing in the world. I mean it. People do all kinds of stuff, and most people are so unconscious and so dysfunctional. They truly have no idea what they're doing. They do. They do out of impulse, out of, striking back at other people, out of anger. And why should any of us be a victim of that or consider ourselves to be a victim of that? But all we need is a system inside that is strong enough to just open our hearts and just be in touch with our self-worth. You connect with God, you will find your self-worth. And then that will channel through you and touch other people. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
I have a question, Stuart. Niobe. Can you share some insight on dealing with disappointments? It might be similar to what you just talked about, but if you just want to.
Well, it's very much what I talked about just now. I mean, if life is your teacher, if you develop an inner life that is strong enough to be able to allow life to be your teacher, you will never be disappointed. You'll make mistakes. People will make mistakes. But every single mistake that is made just becomes something to learn from. So it's no longer negative things. It's just an opportunity to learn and to grow. And you can only be disappointed, honestly, if you have all these expectations in your brain about the way the world is supposed to function. And it never does. You have goals, and instead of working in the moment to attain those goals and to understand that if you want a goal that's going to be here, and you work your ass off to get, it might wind up there, and then we go through this thing of disappointment. It's not disappointment. It's truly living in the moment, and it's truly allowing oneself to experience energy as it manifests in the world. We can only have disappointment if we project and have all these expectations about the way life is supposed to be. Man, I gave that up years ago. I have no idea how life is supposed to be. None. I take every day at a time. Wait, did I read that thing from Chris? Let me read you something. Somebody sent me. I can find it. One second, please forgive me. Yeah. No, that's not it. I guess I don't have it anymore. Okay. Anyway, it really had to do with something that I had written in one of my books, a book called Moving On, Finding Happiness in a Changed World, which, Chris writes, and she reads it every day, it's by her bedside. And it had to do with the fact that just what I'm talking about, I wake up in the morning and, open to whatever life brings me. And how can you be disappointed? Yeah, there are going to be good things, not so good things. But whatever it is, we have the capacity to deal with it and to make it work for us. So I stop having expectations about the way the world should be, and you will eliminate a lot of disappointment from your life. A lot of disappointment, because the world will never be the way you think it's supposed to be. It has its own reality, its own manifestation, its own energies. Not the way we think in our mind life is supposed to be. I have no idea how life is supposed to be. And that really makes life interesting for me. Opening to it, learning from it, letting it teach me to be improvisatory, to be open, to not be afraid to take chances in my life. So again, stop having expectations, stop having financial expectations, right? And you won't be disappointed. Just do your work every day and it'll manifest. Things will happen. It's unbelievable how that works.
It's 2 o'clock.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? I have just an announcement to make. It doesn't really concern most of you, but it might concern some of you here. And I'm going to make this announcement in both classes. I've been giving in-person classes 5 days a week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. And I just have decided that it's too much. One person shows up. And so I'm going to stop giving these in-person classes here on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. I will have one in-person class a week, which will be on Saturday evening at 6 o'clock. But this doesn't have anything to do with people that come here from California, from Israel. There are a lot of people from Florida, from Colorado. People come in order to sit with me. With those people, I arrange to usually have 2 classes a day. Hands-on, deep meditation, transformation classes. It's in my heart to say thank you that people are willing to fly here from, 5,000 miles away in order to sit with me. So I just have those classes with those people. But the regular classes, I am not going to have anymore. I need to have time to do a million things that I have to do in my life. And they've been structuring my life in a certain way. And that makes it very difficult for me to do these things. And then one person shows up. Besides Jennifer, who's in every class. And, it's enough. I have stuff to do. So if you plan on coming, like Ellie and Ophir, you plan on coming, and, Bob, you plan on coming, you'll have plenty of classes, I promise you. Pat and Tabitha were here this weekend. They had 2 classes a day, every day. So don't worry about that. I'm just talking about, I need Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday off to do other things, but sit around and wait for one person to show up at the class. So I just need to announce that. It doesn't concern most of you. It does concern some of you. And especially the people like Sarah comes, and Ellie's coming, and Ophir's coming, and Bob is coming. And it doesn't concern anything to do with the retreat that I'll be giving in August. That will be 3 classes a day, for Saturday and Sunday, and 1 class on Friday night. So I hope you're all be able to comprehend what I talked about. I hope so. I just had to make this announcement. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
I have another one if it's okay.
Have another question?
Is that okay?
Alicia, it's just fine. I love the questions that you ask and other people ask. Brings a whole new dimension to the meditation class. So please, ask away.
Thank you. I'm just sitting here and I'm just wondering how to, the very, very traumatic events that happen to people and, in this world, like you said, it's really crazy. And I suppose through doing this practice more and more, you can meet those from a deeper place. But I notice in myself, it's just very hard. It's, to believe that God or, can allow such things, it's a sort of a bit of a crisis in my system.
Look, in answer to that question, I cannot remember one day in my life where the world hasn't been crazy. I'm a lot older than you, but not one day. When I was younger, I used to scream at the heavens, how can you let this go on? As I got older and I got more spiritual training, I realized that's the way energy manifests on the earth. I cannot fix it. I cannot change that. I can change me. I can open in the deepest parts of myself, find love and compassion for other human beings, without any thoughts about going out there and fixing all the madness that goes on in the world. Can't do it, but I can do everything within the realms of my possibility to help you to learn what I have to teach. That I can do. But I can't fix what's going on in, the Ukraine and these places where people are insane, doing insane things, But all my life, I was born during World War II, for God's sake. I mean, pretty serious time. And all the wars and the poverty. And when I was younger, in my 20s, I would picket in front of the United Nations. I would scream and yell and do. And I finally realized, Stuart, it doesn't change anything. Change yourself. And honestly, that element of life will never change until people change themselves. People have to learn how to work deep enough inside themselves to transform all the anger and the conniving and the politics into love. And people are not going to do that unless they learn how to do it. So again, it gets back to, I have to forgive them. They know not what they do. They have no idea what they're doing, but I can't judge them. These people have no training. They have no internal spiritual life. They have nothing. So they have anger and they have politics and they have whatever they can do to each other in order to hurt each other. And I can't remember a day in my life when this hasn't gone on. Even in my own family, it used to go on. So my job, ultimately, I realized I have to learn to forgive all these people. I have to learn to build inside myself, a system that has compassion for people instead of revenge. But I also had to learn that I had a conversation with God once, and I said, I cannot fix this world. I said, it's your world. You created this place. You got to fix it. I really had this conversation. You got to fix it. I can fix me. And I will work every day of my life on doing that. And I will work every day of my life to help people who want to learn how to do that. And impart with them everything I have learned in my life.
Thank you.
Well, I don't know the answer to that question. But I learned years ago, I can't fix. I even wrote a book called Madness Falling from the Sky. 350-page novel, that I wrote, And I must admit, I didn't make up the title. I got it from a poem by Rabindranath Tagore, the great Indian saint poet of the 20th century. But I was so struck by that when I read that line that it stayed with me for years until it finally became a title of my book, Madness Falling from the Sky.
Yeah.
So please, dear, don't worry about that. Just build yourself, grow, get stronger, open your heart, learn forgiveness, learn that nobody in this world is perfect. And our job is to learn to forgive a lot of imperfect people and build a system inside that is strong enough to connect with spirit.
What I'm just feeling now is like that it's more, what I'm hearing is that it's more a reflection of people having turned away from spirit than it is
Yes.
a reflection of God itself.
Yes, people that live all their life in the mind and the emotions.
Yeah.
And then everything is conflict and everything is, polarity and anger and, how can how can I get the better of another human being? Step all over them, whatever, that's what exists. They've turned from spirit. They were born innocent, beautiful babies. Really the closest thing that we know in the universe to God is infants that are just born. And somewhere along the line, it all got insane. Does anyone else have a question you would like to ask? Okay, if there are no more questions, then there will be class on Tuesday. God bless you all. Thank you for being here. And I'm looking forward to seeing everyone next week. Thank you. Bless you.
Thank you, Stuart.
Stuart.
Thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome.
Thank you.